Try not to complain about the construction. Jim Gaffigan is here.
I will absolutely complain about the construction if I hear it.
I know. But
Every single person, by the way, who's come in, Travis is like, yeah,
Kevin
my
was
wife
wrong?
heard it in
Yeah.
headphones. This person heard it. That person heard it. Somebody called in and said it shook their entire car.
yeah, Kevin was saying that no one could hear it, but apparently everyone can hear it. We have construction going on, so it's very distracting.
Yeah, and I don't want to be embarrassed in front of our guest, Jim
Yeah.
Gaffigan.
You know, I was very impressed with the show until I noticed the construction.
It did ruin it for you.
You know, I went on their show. Did you notice the construction? And there wasn't even a sign that said, "Pardon our dust."
Yeah, I love those. Pardon our appearance while we remodel.
We care so much about you.
Right. We have
It's
this sign.
interesting. I had no idea that Sirius had turned into LaGuardia. And, I didn't even know it was part of LaGuardia. And it's weird. I had to park like 3 blocks away.
Yeah, you
Have you
to.
have you flown out of LaGuardia in the last 6?
Yeah.
It's a nightmare.
A nightmare.
Yeah, it's really out of control.
Although, then there was that story. I mean, JFK, I guess, is not that much better because there was that story, like, over the weekend or something. These poor people were trying to fly to Miami, and they were stuck on the JFK tarmac for 8 hours, just sitting on a plane.
And there was
But that's their fault.
You think so?
Who goes to Miami during the summer?
That's actually a
Do
good
you know what I
point.
mean? No, but that's brutal.
It's avoidable, is what
why
you're saying.
should airlines be able to like leave you out there for 8 hours?
Wasn't there a rule that they couldn't? That there was like a
I thought
3-hour
so.
maximum, and then they had to like let you give the
Yeah.
option of leaving?
Then there were like brawls happening, and you know the airplane police have to come on and say, "Let's stay calm." Like, no,
They probably didn't let people stand up. Please
Right.
sit down.
I'm trying to get.
Or we're not leaving. Maybe it was one guy standing, and they're like, "We're gonna just stand here until the person in 6'4" sits down."
Just a guy in the bathroom that wouldn't get out of it. You have to, sir. We can't leave if you're in the bathroom.
David
We'll
Tell
be-
tells a story like that where he was like, there was like a line and he had to go and piss, and he went to piss, and they're like, sit down, we're going to lose our place in line, like in the takeoff line. And I think he caused them to miss their place in the takeoff line where he had to come back, and they had to like kind of go back and around because he fucked up. It just
You know,
can't be up.
I know nobody.
Terrible story.
It's yeah.
I apologize.
David
No, it
Tell
was a
probably
good
does it
No, it
better.
was a terrible story. No, it wasn't a joke story. It was just a ruin the vibe story.
I got you.
Apologize.
Every time they have those stories where, you know, oh, holiday travel, this is going to be really, really bad, and there's delays, and this person's on strike, or you hear stories about people waiting on the tarmac, or these horrible, like, LaGuardia stories. Probably not a popular option with the airline companies, but why wouldn't everybody just say, okay, there has to be less flights? Like, there just can't, that's the issue. There's too many planes trying to take off all at the same time, right?
Yeah, and they're packed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when there used to be empty flights, and now it's just, we're overbooked, you know, and like, no one, do you have a bag? Or, you know, like if you're overweight, you have to check your stomach.
Yeah.
It's really...
You have to binge and purge.
Or they'll
before you get-
cancel flights. They cancel morning flights that aren't
Yeah.
sold out all the time. Like they'll say, like, "No, this flight's been canceled. We bumped you back 2 hours," and you know it's just because the flight wasn't sold out.
Yeah,
so they
fuck
cancel
it. There's not enough people on this plane to fly.
Don't you
it.
fly private or no? Do you ever fly private?
I have once when I was doing a charity event. No, the private's the way to go.
It's got to be. I
It
mean,
is.
I don't
But
remember.
then you end up complaining about that.
Do you?
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, these gold bricks.
Why can't they make
my
them lighter?
gosh. You know, I flew on Jeffrey Epstein's. No.
Yeah. The Lolita Express
Is it
just
funny
doesn't have
yet?
good food.
Is it funny yet, Jeffrey Epstein? Is it funny yet?
Yeah, I think
find
so.
it.
You can dabble a little.
Their stories keep coming out.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there's part of you, it's such a horrifying thing, but you're like, how long do we have to wait? Like, are we waiting for season 2 of Jeffrey Epstein to find out who was on the list?
Right. Like when you're
Will they
reading,
release it even?
when you're reading stories that are, the headline is, one time Jeffrey Epstein got 2 teenage French girls for his birthday.
3.
3.
Three.
You're going like, this is becoming a parody of itself.
Right.
Who's on the list?
Yeah,
Who's there
and
at that
why
party?
can't they release it?
Well,
Yeah.
that woman knows. That
Yeah.
woman knows. There's a thing that one of the girls said that the woman taught her how to give oral sex. I don't know how old she was, but that woman knows.
I wish I had been taught.
I know. I do it poorly. I do it very poorly.
I was mid-40s, so I was doing it wrong.
What's this little button at the top?
But it is, wouldn't we know by now?
You would think so. You would think, in my head, it's just a list, right? Like it's not that secret or hidden. Like
There's
who went where?
like we're in the middle of a conspiracy theory, right? Where are they just gonna drag it out And then people are like, all right, we'll move on to something else.
Yeah.
All right, Greenland.
I feel like that's what they're
Somebody's
doing.
gonna get sunk. Somebody's gonna get sunk. Somebody big, Prince Andrew. I don't think Clinton, but it's gonna be somebody like that, and then people's appetite will kind of be like, all right,
We got one.
there's somebody huge that went down because there's just too many big people kind of circling.
Is Dershowitz, like, by the way, we're just gonna, like, here's the thing, go after one of the most brilliant lawyers of modern times.
Yeah.
Is Dershowitz, it's like libel.
Yeah.
But I said is.
I said just is.
Yeah, I threw in allegedly.
There was an implied question mark at the end.
But it's just, I don't know, man. There's a level of like, where, I mean, I sincerely feel like we're, like we all have those friends that are like totally in conspiracy theories. And I'm like, we're living through one.
Definitely.
Right?
Definitely.
The whole pedophile ring. It makes it like, wow, Alex Jones was not as crazy when you hear like all these rich pedophiles and all these millionaire pedophiles, and then you're like, now you look at what's happening. It's like, God Christ, there is a ring.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are high-profile pedophiles.
Yeah, and it's like they work together, and this one knows about that one, and he'll bring girls in for you. It's like it's not as crazy as I thought. You can't believe it happens sometimes.
No, it's just insane.
But can you imagine if you're Dershowitz? I mean, you have to, on some level, feel so accomplished to know that not only did you basically help get Jeffrey Epstein off the first time, you know, he did like whatever he did, a couple
13
months in jail,
12 hours
months
a day he was out.
Yeah.
He pretty much got him off. He also helped get OJ off.
Right.
OJ and Epstein.
Well, he also got, there was the lady Helmsley. He got her.
Yeah.
Leona Helmsley?
Yeah.
What did she was for her? Wasn't it tax evasion or something? Because she had used money
I thought
from the...
she murdered her husband. I assume the rich, the bad, therefore they're going down.
Wait, did she murder her husband? Did I literally just give a tax charge to a woman who killed her
I thought
spouse?
that there was some spouse that died.
Let's see.
But it is like...
After allegations of non-payment were made
Okay,
by
maybe
contractors hired to improve her Connecticut home, she was investigated
Yeah, taxes.
and convicted
Taxes.
of federal income.
Jim put a
evasion.
murder on her.
taxes, but that's like murder.
It's like murder.
It's similar. It's the same kind of
Hey,
genre.
I got to pay my fair share. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're killing me here.
Yeah, she was really hated. I think of her every time I drive because the Helmsley building is in the middle of Park Avenue. So you kind of drive under it.
Right.
I think of that rotten old lady.
You do.
Yeah, every time I go through it, I think of Leona Helmsley.
She was a great kisser. She could be so romantic.
Yeah.
She
So
wasn't all
romantic.
dollars and cents.
She would just, sometimes we would just sit back and chat.
That's really nice.
We just got to know each other.
Hey, do you still work the comic strip?
I haven't been there in a while.
I went recently, and I guess that's where we met, and doing late night at the strip. And I went there recently to do a podcast. It looks different now. It looks like it used to look apparently before we got into the business.
It's so insane. And that was like 100 years ago. Like, it's just insane how long it's been. Like, I'll run into people. I'm like, I met you 30 years ago. I'm like, wait a minute. Am I my dad?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the context of talking of things of like 20 years ago and 30 years ago is absurd.
You look at the headshots on the wall, and I'm like, out of the business, dead, really famous, dead, out of the business. It's amazing how many people are dead or just left, or that I'm like, who the fuck is that?
Right.
So-
Right. And then you're like, oh, it's me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh, it says Jim Norton under it.
No, my headshot never got up at the comic strip.
It didn't?
Really?
No, I never made it to the comic strip wall.
Oh.
I don't think so.
That's a
I'm
bummer.
sure you're up there.
No, I might have at one point, maybe over like in the corner at one point.
I mean, you'd think at this point you'd be up there.
No,
Wow.
I don't think
It's
so.
So,
Well, that says more about them than it does about you,
yeah,
Jim.
really. What's that all about? Everyone, we should kind of like protest by not going there.
Yeah, cancel.
I don't
Cancel.
Cancel the comic strip.
Cancel comic strap.
I had a douchey headshot though. I had one where my hands were on my hips, and I had a Clockwork Orange shirt under. It was really
I
bad.
remember that one.
Oh, it was awful.
There was no good headshots, though, right? Were there?
No, but there was levels of awful, and I really peaked.
Well, I think Jim Andrinos had a headshot where he had just 2 Q-tips coming out of his ears. I remember that. That was
he?
up at the comic strip.
Well, like young headshots are so bad because you can feel the desperation. in
Trying to be
them.
funny.
Yeah, like you can feel I'm trying to get everything out so the casting director will see in this
Right.
photo how much I could do, and you go, oh,
And it doesn't work.
never.
The
None of them.
90s were bad because they had these weird little like almost like a frame. It was like a white border.
The border, yeah.
And this weird kind of like weird frame around it on the inside. Those were
Yeah.
terrible headshots.
And it was before. By the way, you had to pay a lot. Like that was something
Yeah.
you'd save up. You're like, I'm gonna get headshots.
Yeah. I can't make it here without headshots.
I'm working until I can afford new headshots.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Well, you have to pay for a tape. There's a guy named Peter Klusman that used to go to Caroline's.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
And tape everybody, and you'd fucking, you'd spend whatever it cost to get him in there, and he was great. But,
Now you just Google
And
image
then
yourself and print it out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you'd go to his place, and he kind of like lived like the Unabomber somewhere on the Upper West Side, and you'd visit him, and he was, I remember just being this struggling comedian. I'm like, any advice you can give me. And he gave me advice.
Was it good advice?
Good?
I think he advised reading a book.
Okay, that sounds like you made it up on the spot. Yeah.
He's like, maybe I think he might have just been reading the book, and he's like, and I was like, thank you so much.
Hey, have you gone to Rome?
Rome?
Yeah. So when you go, you perform for the Pope. When you go somewhere like that, do you try to see him again?
No.
Like, are we friends after
Like,
this?
yeah, like, hey, you might remember me.
Hey, Pope. No, like, even when I was introduced to him, like, the guy was, like, behind him speaking in Italian or Spanish, like, comedica americano. You know what I mean? So, like, no, he wouldn't recognize
When you're
me.
performing, you performed for him or you just met him?
I performed before he came in.
Like, literally on the same stage as the Pope.
That's incredible. So is that gig a super high pressure gig, or are you just thinking to yourself, I'm just going to do my stuff?
It's a no-win situation.
It seems
it's
like
2 million people outside in Philadelphia,
Mm-hmm.
and none of them are there to see stand-up. They're
Right.
like there to see the Pope. No one's going, I hope there's a comedian.
Yeah. It's such a different energy.
Are they having a comedian open for this guy who's
But yeah,
people
it's
complain about like having to open for bands.
Yeah.
And then Gaffigan is there like, yeah, one time I had to open for the Pope.
Someone's probably going to open for Putin,
Yeah.
I'm doing a show in Moscow.
Are you?
I am in November. That's going to be interesting.
Now, have you gotten a lot of contact from Moscow, like fans and
Not
or does a promoter
really.
go, we're
No.
going to try this?
I wanted to do, I love doing international shows, so I was like, I'm doing the Baltic and Baltic states, and I knew a guy, this promoter in Asia, and I was like, and he came through. He's like, hey, I can get you a show in Moscow, which is crazy, right? I don't know if, how many people there, because English is not like something people pick up there.
Right. Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, when you're doing a show like that, that's not only international, but a totally different culture.
Yeah.
Do you start researching the culture to kind of figure out what's going to work, what's not going to work, maybe?
It's a little bit like, when people, when comedians come from other parts of the country and they're doing spots in New York, they're like, this subway's crazy here. So it's very kind of like first low-hanging fruit kind of thing.
Right.
But hopefully your point of view is unique. But I don't know. And we'll see. Like, I don't know, like with Netflix and like, because you have specials on HBO too.
I want HBO, yeah.
Like, what is the biggest reach like from a foreign country? Has it been HBO or has it been Netflix?
I would say it's got to be Netflix. A lot of it's from radio online stuff, like
Right.
stuff that people have YouTubed over the years.
Yeah.
YouTube,
the
right.
radio bits. But I would say of the two, Netflix definitely, just because HBO is more regional.
Right.
I'm sure it's available there, but Netflix, they all kind of...
And they put their comedy stuff front and center a lot.
Yeah. And they get it all at the same time.
Yeah.
So I would say I did England. I did five European cities, and then I did England,
Yeah.
and they all like knew me from Netflix.
Oh, that's amazing.
What made you decide to not do your special on Netflix?
Well, some of it is, I think the business of specials is changing constantly. Like my first special was on Comedy Central, and it ended up like in 2006 when I was 12. No, in 2006, and that was like perfect timing where every dorm room had Comedy Central on.
Right, everybody was watching cable.
And now, like, no college kid has cable.
Right.
And so it shifts every 5 years. Granted, they approach me, but I get like 3 boxes from Amazon a day.
Mm-hmm.
And they offered me half the company of Amazon.
Wow.
That's worth it. Yeah.
me
And then after the
worth it.
divorce, it's like, so I gave Gaffigan half and the ex-wife has half. That's
Yeah.
just terrible business.
And so, every day I talk to the Bays. And,
I hope he's doing
and
well,
I'm
by the
like,
way.
you know what? Hey, instead of the smiley curved arrow on the box, how about my mug? And he's like, yeah, let's do it.
So they are going to change that.
They're going to change
should.
all
Oh,
the
that's
boxes.
huge. So
all
no
the
wonder,
boxes
no
will
wonder
just
you
be
make the
pictures of
switch.
me.
Wait, so you're on Amazon. It's on Amazon Prime. So how do people get it? Can they stream it, or like it sounds
On
like
Amazon
a
Prime.
question? Yeah.
If you get packages delivered, which is most people, then you probably have Prime. And then if you don't have Prime, I think there's like a 1 month free trial.
Okay.
Amazon Prime is amazing because people got it at first just because it gave you pay whatever you pay, and they give you 2-day shipping on everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's like there's a tremendous value in that.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then one day they just decided, what if we also gave you just a ton of content online?
Yeah.
And you go, yeah, I would accept that.
Yeah.
I would accept more content.
Yeah.
Can I
guess
still have the 2-day shipping? And yeah, that sounds good.
It is. It's fascinating to consider that, like, that the place that we order socks and paper towels is also like providing content. Like,
Yeah.
that's absurd.
Yeah, you can go to Amazon. Yeah, I just got a 24-pack of Zevia. That's soda made with stevia.
Yes.
And that's the same place where we'll get your special
And, you know,
from.
that's also, you're probably causing cancer.
You think
You
so?
know? I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out. Dershowitz is like listening. Okay, I'll contact them also.
I'm really hoping it doesn't cause cancer. It's like one of the only healthy things I do.
Really?
Well, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not artificial.
It's a
Right.
fake sugar. All
It's
fake
not fake, though.
sugars.
It's natural.
It's a natural sugar.
That's why because I was thinking the same
You know
thing
what
as
else is
you.
natural? Cancer.
Shit,
Cancer
you're
is
right.
natural.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. It is natural.
Dude, there's nothing more natural than weed.
But
You don't
yeah,
partake, do you?
What's that?
In weed or anything? Partake in
occasionally.
weed, but you know
I
what I'm saying.
partake.
Oh, you
Occasionally.
do?
I've gone through periods where I'm like not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I used to work out a lot. Like now you're thin and I'm fat, but when you were fat,
You're not
I
fat.
was
You're
thin.
stocky. You're a big dude. Like you're built like a wrestler. You're a wrestler. You're built like a wrestler.
but it's just like the jackets don't fit anymore.
Oh,
Like,
that's a shame.
I'm doing this TV thing after this, and I'm like, I literally have to wear a jacket because if I don't wear a jacket from the side,
Mm-hmm.
I look like a moving van. It's just way too big. Like,
But do you look at that and go like, okay, I got to do something, or do you go, you know what? There's a guy who's enjoying his life.
I just, I also, there's too many aches and pains.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wake up and I'm like, I don't know, but like, do you have joint pain or anything?
Yeah, my left knee. I have it, sure. And I don't know why I care. People like no one cares what I look like, or we're male comics,
Right.
But
We're
I think the same
characters
thing.
anyway.
Like my fat, like I can feel like when you turn a certain way, you feel the side roll, and you're like, I'm such a fat fuck, and nobody cares. Like people aren't looking at that going, oh, Jim is. They don't give a
Yeah.
shit.
No, they don't care. But I think because I am fat that my joints hurt. Because I'm like
It's a little
400
extra weight.
pounds.
You're
I'm
400 pounds.
I'm
You
400
carry it
pounds.
well.
I was the guy sitting on my couch hacking the election.
Oh, wow.
That
No
was
wonder
me.
the Russians are so happy that you're coming
that
over.
was me that Trump was talking about. I was hacking the election. And then I got in the business with the Bays. I
Right.
call them the Bays.
Have you met him or no?
I've met them. Yeah. I mean, the weird thing about like Amazon is I'm sure they're making more money off of socks than any entertainment form.
Yeah, it's just one more thing. It's one more
You know
thing.
what I
It's almost like Netflix is overspending just to wipe everybody else out, and that's what they're doing.
Amazon makes all their money selling server space.
Yeah, they do.
Like it's
right?
all the stuff that isn't sort of. I mean, it's known, but it's not the commercial stuff. It's like the CIA buys server space
from Amazon.
from Amazon.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know that when I sold my special through my website, Amazon was behind it.
So
They're
there you
behind
go.
everything.
Yeah.
They do that, and they do all this stuff.
Do you like doing your own through your website? I mean, Louis did a great job with that.
Yeah.
Aziz did it. I mean, there's
Yeah.
a certain level of guys that can do it.
I think it's, but that was a time, now I don't know if it would work. I just think it's like getting people to go to your website.
Yeah.
Like that used to happen, but now it's like,
Yeah, Aziz is back on Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things now, you're right, where maybe the transition has become that everybody's got their streaming service, whatever it is, right in front of them.
Yeah.
So it's like, they hear you talking about it, but they're not going to go search for anything because anytime you turn on Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever it is,
Yeah.
whatever the thing is that's right in front of you, you're like, new thing,
Yeah,
here
I
it
feel
is.
like HBO, we're so predisposed to like some of those shows that it's It's a conspiracy.
But we get lazy, though. And you had a funny joke, which I've thought of, again, 1,000 times, about when you're reading a newspaper and they say, continued on page 4. Not for me, it's not.
Yeah, you're like, stop bossing me around.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that.
But I think of that because it's like, if it's not right in front of me, or if I go to an article and it's like, hey, subscribe. Nope, I don't care. Whatever information they have.
Oh, yeah, you're like, a really important article. You're like, I really need to know. And they're like, sign up for the Wall Street Journal. You're like, no, thanks.
No.
Yeah.
And then
I'm not spending $1.75 on this. I'm not
I
doing
can't
it.
afford $1 to support journalism.
And in the moment, you're super invested and super interested in whatever the topic is. And then the minute you decide, I'm not doing that, and you move on to the next thing, you forget you ever read it.
You forget. And that's how people are with us, though. It's like, if it's not like right in front of you, people are like, I'd love to see that. And then a week later, like, oh, fuck it, who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, and you stopped doing your show. We were talking about this off the air. And that was that because of family, or was it too time consuming and you didn't want to do it?
It was really time consuming, but it was me and my wife. And so like we have 5 kids, so it was ridiculous. Like I had to kind of convince her because it was kind of a dream situation for her. But
it was a funny show. Like it was a really good show.
But it was too, it's like you're kind of managing how much you want to do constantly, right? And so I'm like, I don't know if I want to, and it's like 14 hours a day. And there's certain people, like when Louis did his innumerable shows, it's like, I look at that and I'm like, that's too much. That's way too much. And then he would also do an hour every 3 months. So, but it's like, some people like that. I'm like,
not
too lazy.
How is she doing?
She's good. She's good. She's got a book coming out. She wrote a book. Of course, she had like a brain tumor, and then she wrote a book about it. So it's coming out in October. But so that's, I wrote 2 books with her. So like when she was writing this out, I was like, hey, do you want me? And she's like, no, that's all right.
She did it herself?
She was like, that's all right. I just mostly fixed your grammar, and I don't need you messing this up. So
But that's scary when that happens, I'm sure. It's horrifying.
Oh, it's terrifying. It's terrifying. Now, wait a minute. How many books have you done?
I've done 2.
And what about, like, why not 3?
I'm lazy. That's literally, and I put my energy into specials after I did a couple of specials after but I literally lazy.
Well, but it's also like the time, like the book world is so different. They're like, good news, we sold 3,000 books. And you're like, is that good?
Yeah.
Is that good? They're like, yes, if this was 15th century London. You know what I mean? It's like, it's so weird, the book world.
Yeah, and like what counts is because all that matters is the New York Times bestseller. That's all you think of. That's all they think of. You got to do signings at independent bookstores. But now online sales count, and pre-sales, I think, count towards the list, but they didn't at one point, and now they do.
Yeah, and Amazon's huge.
Right.
My buddy Bezos.
Yeah,
Bezzy.
Bees has
what
the...
What do I call him, Bees?
The Bays.
I call him the Killer Bays.
The Killer Bays.
So wait, did he want to meet you because of this, or is it some other
No,
service?
I had met him before doing something else. I did Bill Gates's birthday party.
Oh, my God.
I couldn't. They asked me for that. I turned it down.
And
okay. Luckily, Gaffigan was free.
Gaffigan was available.
Yeah.
And at that birthday party, so it was like, I don't know, it was like 100 people in the party. And I'm probably breaking a confidentiality agreement.
I'm sure that there were a lot of famous people there, too.
But one table was Warren Buffett and his wife, Bezos and his wife, and Bill Gates and his wife, and then like Elizabeth Shue and her husband.
So you do this gig. You do this gig. Are they eating dinner? Like it's in a restaurant, I'm guessing.
No, it was in their house. But like they have a huge, massive house.
I hope
has
so.
like a ballroom.
Okay. Now these are the thoughts that go through my head. I don't know if it would ever go through your head, but immediately I was thinking, if I were in that room, especially if I were about to go like perform in front of them, I would think to myself, if I could get my hands on a grenade and just throw it and blow up that table, I would change the course of world history forever.
Sounds like you've got a lot of anger.
Okay, all right. I don't want to do it.
No, but like that
you
was
have the ability
richest table.
Yeah, you have the ability to change everything.
So did you?
If you have a grenade,
how was
I
it?
don't have one.
It was all right. It was like, those are not, as you know, there's certain no-win situations.
Yes.
And
Pope. Bill Gates.
like where you're like, all right, this is interesting. But it was It was weird because I announced that I was Midwestern, and Warren Buffett's wife was like, "We're from the Midwest," and I'm like, "Lady, I know. Everyone here knows that you're from Omaha." Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to explain it. But
how do you deal if the billionaire's wife, God forbid, starts heckling a little bit? Do you have to?
Yeah,
Because you can't just go into heckler mode entirely.
I think you don't, like birthday parties are, not that I've done that many of them. You don't want to ruin someone's 60th birthday.
Right. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Because it's not your show, it's their show.
No, it's their show.
Right.
And there's also just, none of those people were like, I'll go to Bill Gates' birthday party if Jim Gaffigan.
Who's performing? Was Bill a fan, or did they just say, we're going to get you a comedian?
I think he and his kids. Yeah.
I see.
So, I don't know. I mean, that's a weird one.
How much did you have to do? How much time?
I think it was like 30 minutes.
And was there anybody? But all I want to know is was there anybody on before you? Was there what was right before you?
I was introduced by Melinda Gates. I performed the weirdest show. I don't know if I've told you this, but I opened. I didn't open. I performed at the NFL owners' party before a Super Bowl. That was surreal. That was just really weird because it was back when it was in Indianapolis, and so you see like all these NFL owners, and you're kind of like, wait a minute, is that Jerry Jones?
Yeah.
And so you're doing your show, and Jerry Jones is not laughing.
Of course he isn't.
It's like, well, the thing is billionaires have kind of lost touch with kind of like the task of going to a grocery store.
Right.
So there's like some of the commonalities just disappeared from their lives.
Your relatable brand of humor all of a sudden is a different world away.
Like, who is this peasant? What's he saying?
You're like, remember how annoying it is to do this? They're like, no, I have someone do that for me.
Was it a bad show?
It was pretty awkward.
Yeah.
It was pretty awkward. I remember Jerry Jones not laughing, and I also remember the grandmother who used to own the Giants, Mara, because she was kind of a stately old lady, kind of like Barbara Bush. And I remember seeing this, she was probably in her 80s at the time. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm destroying this woman's night.
Was she not enjoying it?
No, I think she was like, they were kind of all civil, but they're also, it's a very strange, put the billionaire stuff aside, it's a very strange group. So like, I think there's a certain ego that you need to undertake to even be an owner of a sports team, right? So like, they were kind of like a different group.
At what point did you start to realize, or I guess did you start to get booked for like these events of the super rich and powerful and realize that, oh, some of these like really famous, really important people actually like what I do? Oh,
it's absurd. It's absurd. Like when I met Jeff Bezos, he was like, I like your stand-up. And it's, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird because like, it's this, I mean, you encounter this, you're like, oh yeah, that's right. Just because you're a professional tennis player, that doesn't mean you don't watch stand-up.
It doesn't mean you don't go online and look at things. I'm always floored though, but I mean, you can't act like you're floored, but it's like, really?
Does it ever occur to you, oh, Jeff Bezos isn't going to like this joke? Like not that you would offend him, but just like, oh no, this is too, like this premise is too dumb for Jeff Bezos. Yeah. Like what's that's in your head?
Well, I tell you, when I was at that thing, I was like, when I was at the Bill Gates thing, I was like, I am beyond a doubt the dumbest person. Like, I'm sure that the cater waiters were probably like PhD students.
Yeah.
It's just like, I was like, gosh, I just, am the dumbest guy here.
Did you focus on the party at all? Or did you roast them at all? Or did you only do your act?
I didn't want to roast them. I just kind of did my thing. And, but it was, how like for stand-ups, this, Jim, it's like there's certain things, you figure out certain rooms, you figure out situations. And so it's like, maybe if I did like all billionaire birthday parties, I'd figure out how to do it.
Right.
But it felt like one of those things where it's kind of like the first international show. You're like, do I change all the references?
Yeah. Do I say Tim Hortons? I'm in Montreal.
do I say Z or Z? I don't know. And then eventually you just get so comfortable. But I don't know. Yeah, it was one of those awkward situations, but they're kind of fun. I mean, like,
It's a great story, and you know that good or bad, it's going to be interesting for the rest of your life to think about it and talk about it.
And on some level to interact with those people,
Yeah.
just to get a taste of what they're like in any way, shape, or form has got to be fascinating.
Yeah. Oh, it is. I did a birthday party now it sounds like I only do birthday parties. I think maybe it was a wedding anniversary. It was one of the wealthiest families in Florida, and they were the most normal people in the world. Like, they had everyone from their company there. It was not like they were showing off, but like I got the gig and I'm Googling and I'm like, all right, billionaire. And then you get there and they're like, hey, how you doing? You know, like they were the most normal, like this family from Philly. I was like, wow.
Just
awesome.
regular people.
Yeah, totally.
I don't like private stuff though, like corporate stuff. I mean, my act is not because I just don't do well. Like, they just, if I did well, I would love them because the money in them is great and they're usually fast gigs, 30 minutes. But I don't succeed there, and I always know when I go up, this is going to be ugly. So
they definitely. There's like stuff that topic wise, like that they just freak out and those things because all it takes is one person to be like, I was offended by that joke,
right?
And then they're in trouble.
Is there anything you want to talk about? Because you're a pretty clean comic. Is there anything you ever want to talk about where you're like, nah, I don't know, that might be more of a headache than I need?
I think like most comics, I'm always kind of testing what I can talk about. I do feel like I'm fascinated by politics, but I also think it's like a dead end.
Yep.
But that's not to say that I want to talk about it because I feel like there's such an overall fatigue. But I don't know. There's some topical stuff where I'm like, it's just not worth it. It's just not worth. Like it's funny for us to talk about it here. But like as a stand-up, you're like, I constructed the perfect Jeffrey Epstein joke. It's like in
I
2
did too,
months,
but it was defense. The perfect Jeffrey Epstein defense.
But in like 2 months, it's just gonna seem archaic.
Do you?
It's gonna be a Reagan neck impression.
Letting them go is really hard. Letting something go. That's where all these guys who push it on Instagram are smart because you can burn it and put it on Instagram or put it on Twitter and it's done.
Yeah.
But it's heartbreaking to let a good one go. And there's nothing worse than a comic trying to make a Clinton cigar joke. Trying to make it feel like it's still relevant.
Because they just love that joke so much they won't.
It's a great joke.
And they're like, it was interesting. I was watching the History Channel and they were talking about the Clinton administration. I remember it's such a long jog.
Yeah, you've been doing this for 20 years.
It's such a long jog.
Yeah. So if you come, like, if a premise kind of pops into your head, or you just start to develop the seeds of a joke that's topical, do you kind of go, no, because that'll burn really quickly and just push it out?
I just think that, we're all throw it on Twitter, but like, I throw less and less on Twitter. Like I did a tweet last night and I'm like, oh my God, that's right. I just normally just post videos on here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it used to be like something I'm like, I need to think of a tweet.
Right.
I need to think of something. Is that good for a tweet?
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, it doesn't matter.
No.
Like, it's like, I just check out, what are we mad at today?
Right.
Do you ever find yourself checking likes and going, I hate myself. What do I care for? Like, how many people like this? It becomes obsessive and it's just too.
It's bad. It's bad.
How many hugs do I need?
Right.
It's not even for. It's like how much. Just shut up.
Yeah, it's bad.
It is. And it also is like fleeting. Like because it's all these social platforms are going to be obsolete in 10 years. Like, there's going to be something where we're like just tapping the air.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's going to be something weird.
But you go for a tweet and you're like, in your head, you're going, this is the one. Trust me when I tell you. This is the one that's going to get the likes and the retweets and blah, blah. And you start to refresh. And within 30 seconds, it's just not going that fast.
It's been up for an hour and it's got 6. You're like, it's not taking off.
Right.
And one of them was spam.
A bot with an egg profile picture. You're like, oh, 5 people liked what I said.
Get that one.
Oh, boo.
Were you, when Forbes put you on the list of the top earning comedians, is that one of those things where you're like, I don't really want my finances out there, or are you going like, fuck yeah, I accomplished this?
No, I mean, I think it's, to be perfectly honest, it's like in the entertainment industry, I feel like there's nothing sexy about me. So like, I'm like, there's an article on me where they're not saying clean. They probably did say clean, but but I also know that everyone knows it's all kind of like they're guessing. It's not like, because they would do an article on Trump's tax returns if they could actually get the information. So it's a guess, but I guess the only benefit is that some producer in Hollywood might be like, oh, hey, I guess he's real.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's the value of it. Otherwise, it's just, then we just get like people going, hey, I saw that. Can you help me cure leukemia?
Right.
And
I saw you have money. May I have some?
Your fucking cousins start calling you up.
You're like, it's not true. They had to ballpark it. And you're like, yeah, but still leukemia. And you're like, yeah, obviously leukemia is great. But if you haven't noticed, I have 5 kids and I'm probably going to die in a year.
So you have 5 kids, and like, do you like the day-to-day stuff? Like, I never was family oriented. And I see guys like you who, like, you seem like you love doing it.
You mean like, it's something, it's kind of hard to articulate it, why it's so kind of refreshing and fun. And it is kind of a recalibration of priorities where you don't get caught up in like, that tweet didn't get any likes. But it's absurd. I also, I love stand-up. It's like, the family thing, it keeps me normal, but I also don't feel like, it's one thing if I didn't have a job that I loved, I don't know. I think I'd be like, I can't believe I'm just going, because September's starting and I'm just going to go to school events every single night.
So you're present for all that stuff. Like, you go, do you miss any of those things, like the recital or whatever?
Oh yeah,
you're on the
I'll
road?
miss some stuff. Yeah. And you feel horrible. And there's a lot of birthday parties that happen on weekends, and there are like parents that, like, when I show up at things, they're like, oh, you're here, oh, you're normally not here.
Do they say something?
Yeah,
right?
because there's people that are at every like, being a parent of one child is a full-time job. Like, it is one of those things where there's school, we're all getting together for muffins after drop-off.
That's the issue.
And you're like, I don't like people. I don't know if I've made that clear.
Yeah. My wife, like, this week, had a friend over the house who just had a baby.
Yeah.
And so she was like, yeah, we're going to get the kids together, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, but so it'll be my wife and her and the kids. Like, good, I'm clear. Don't need, like, right before she goes, oh, she said she's going to bring her husband?
Oh.
And I went, why? What?
Well, that's...
Who could ask you radio questions?
Yeah, what?
Nothing better.
Have you heard of this guy, Louis C.K.?
Yeah. And then, hey, do you will you take them downstairs and show them the studio you built? And I'm like, I built it for me. It's not a...
So what do you do for fun?
Is this where you do most of your stuff?
You play golf?
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't, and I've gotten really bad and antisocial because the more you do, the more you can get away with it. Where, Jess will be up there for hours with company. Yeah. And I'll just be down in the basement just waiting. Waiting for it to end.
It is. I mean, my wife, her dad was very much kind of like the disappear type.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Like I'd be like, hey, I'd be visiting, and he'd be like in the basement working on the computer. I'm like, I like this arrangement.
It's great.
Just wants to be left alone.
I think that's the hardest thing of parenting is, like, think about like the trajectory of your life. Like, so you had friends in grade school, you had friends in high school, you had friends in your 20s. And along the way, you kind of like, as you change, you're like, no, this is who I am. These are my friends. I like that person that I grew up next to, but this is who I am. Mm-hmm. These are my friends. I'm choosing who I hang out with. And then you have children, and you're forced to hang out with people that you might not. You're like, so you've got a 7-month-old too?
Yeah.
So we should hang out, maybe we vacation together, even though we have nothing in common. It's a very strange kind of...
Your kids made a choice that you now have to kind of abide by.
Or they just... so then you're struggling for things in common. They're all very nice people, but
they're great
just
people,
like,
but there's nothing... I'm trying to figure out what's more miserable, is trying to talk about your work with somebody who's completely not there, or listen to them talk about their work. Yeah. Both of it's misery.
I'd rather listen, because there's as a comic, I hate the questions and being
horrible.
Explain, because I realize how boring it sounds when I explain. Oh no, I just go on the road and I write. I don't know. I just think of stuff.
What kind of comedy is it?
Oh.
I saw some of your stand-up, and then there's just a pause. And
Yeah.
you're like,
Yeah. Okay.
what the hell, man?
Yeah, I don't want your feedback unless it's great.
Yeah.
If it was great, fine. If not, just shut up. I get it. I'm
You
average.
don't have to pretend to be a fan.
Yeah.
We can talk about other things.
So they'll go like, "Oh, SiriusXM, what channel?" And I'm like, it's a channel 103. You won't like
That
it.
is the worst. You have a radio show?
Yeah,
What's
what-
it called?
what-
My name is on
Oh,
it.
that's
and,
interesting.
And what do you guys talk about? Like, just whatever.
day.
I listen to the Springsteen channel.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's great.
Like, what do you want me to do with that?
I'd rather listen about their jobs. So I'd much rather listen because you can kind of zone out.
Do you know this guy, Howard Stern?
I always say no.
I've
no,
heard
does
the
he do
name.
radio?
Have you ever heard of Howard Stern?
No, I never
You're
admit
like, yeah.
to hearing of famous comics or anything. Kevin Hart, like, no.
Yeah. Do you do it in the same studio as Howard? Yeah, we have to whisper ours because we're in the same room.
Yeah. Or he leaves early and we take over.
So that's interesting. I always feel guilty though, because I am that guy. Like when I do shows like this, I'm always like, "How do you get up so early?" And which I'm sure is a conversation that after a while you're like, "Can we talk about something else?"
Yeah, but at least we're
besides-"
doing the show. Like, I feel different. I don't mind talking on the air.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because this is what we do. It's
Yeah.
like off the air. And also somebody like you, I would, if you asked me those questions, I would be able to ask you questions. There would be
Right.
something there.
yeah.
But when it's stuff you don't care about, you're like, there's no reciprocal thing going on. Plus, the stuff I do is so foreign.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
And you don't
Yeah.
care about when people like I did an interview yesterday. She was very nice, but asking like what kind of what she was asking about, kind of like what do you talk about? And I give the same answer every time, just topical stuff. My life,
Oh
like
my
I don't know
God.
what to say to that question.
Whatever's
It was a
funny.
bad question, but I never know how to answer it.
I never know how to answer it, and also, it's for me. It sounds horrible. I'm like, I talk about horses, and then it's like the worst. It's the worst possible scenario. Wait a minute, you're talking about horses for like 10 minutes? Yes, I talk about horses for 10 minutes, and then I talk about marathons for 5 minutes. It sounds like torture.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is this a TED Talk or comedy?
Who is like, what is the worst thing that a guest could do when they're on this show?
not give information, not talk.
Yes.
That's the worst
Or
thing.
they do like yes and no answers.
Yeah, or anything you ask him, like, yeah, or if a guest has had something crazy happen, it's like, I don't want to get into that. Like,
you know, within, or at least I think you know at this point
immediately,
too,
sure.
within 2 questions, whether it's going to be, I'm going to enjoy this, or, okay, this one's going on my back. Like, I'm going to have to, this guest is not
Right.
going to do any of the heavy lifting.
I think
here.
that's the worst thing for
Yeah.
me, at least. If they're confrontational, I know people like hearing it. If they're
Yeah.
funny, if we're talking about different stuff, the only thing they can do that I hate is just not give anything.
It's like if you have an astronaut in the studio who was in space for a year and has no interesting stories, and every question you ask, they look at you like you're an idiot.
In the time you've been in, you've given us more interesting space stories than that man who lived there for a year. It was terrible.
He was horrible.
Every question I asked, he acted like, what does this asshole want?
And they were actually like, I wanted to bust Jim's balls on the questions, but I was like, I'd like to hear the answer to that question too.
I remember when I was on for like this year or so, I was on Conan once a month. And so I would do this segment and then I would watch the show. Because like when I was a kid, I would watch late night shows religiously. And I was like, I'd love to do that. And then for like this 2-year period, I would watch Conan and there would be like good guests and then there would be bad guests. And then every now and then there would be like, oh my gosh, this is a really hard job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really hard job where Conan is carrying them. Like there's like shows like where someone thinks they're funny, but they're not funny, but he can't bury them.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? At least in this environment, you guys can look at each other but he was out there solo and I was like, wow, this
Or like
is brutal.
the guys that aren't funny that will come on and try to out funny Conan
Yes.
or whoever the host
Yes.
is, and you're like, what do you just let him carry
Yeah.
you here? Like, what
Yeah.
are you doing?
The worst is a story. Like if I tell a story that goes nowhere, which will happen frequently, I know it and I can say it. The worst is when a story is going nowhere and nobody can acknowledge this stinks. That's not. It's a terrible, boring story. The person telling it doesn't know it's boring. The host can't just go, "What the fuck was that?" everyone has to pretend it was a great story when it wasn't. It's like that's a really difficult thing
You know what's
to pull
pretty
off.
bad? When people come in with like a lot of energy, hey, what's going on, guys? And then they sit down and somehow it just shuts off.
Yeah.
And you're like, what happened to the guy?
Or it's all energy and there's nothing interesting coming out.
Right, they're just shouting.
And they're nice and you can't even get mad at them because they're fun to be around.
So when someone's focusing on, like, do they bring everything back to a thing they're plugging? Do you ever get that? Like,
oh, yeah.
It's interesting you bring that up. On my Amazon.
Yeah, as I said in the book, this is the worst. When someone writes a book and then you ask a question, not the whodunit mystery, but they're like, well, it's in the book. You're going to have to read it. I'm like, look, nobody
is going to read it.
This is 25 minutes we have to talk, or it's a half hour. You can't just tell me read the book. Tell me the story. People will still read the book.
Jim and I, we always know, though, like, we'll never actually have the conversation, but right after the segment, like, we'll go to the bathroom or something, be standing at the urinal, and just one of us would just go, oof, and just start giggling.
Want more Jim and Sam? Catch up with full episodes and interviews from celebrity guests anytime on demand using the SiriusXM app.